This is Living Power with Dan Hurst.
They're living their life is the right way. And they're trying to be obedient to the Word, and they're trying to do the right thing as Christians, but they're doing it in their own power, in their own authority, if you will. Today, what we're going to take a look at in the story as we study the life of, over the next few weeks, study the life of Jacob, we're looking at what happens when you operate under stolen authority. In other words, when you operate under an authority that really isn't the appropriate authority, the appropriate power in your life. And discover, I hope, how you can operate under the right authority, with the right power in your life. We hear this all the time, that we're to operate, or we're to live, or we're to act in the power of God, that you have the power of God in you, that you have the very same power that raised Jesus from the dead, that power living within you. And we're told that, and we've heard that for years, but how does that work? And do you feel like you have the power of Christ in you, the resurrection power of Christ? I'll tell you, about 6 o'clock in the morning, I know Jesus rose from the dead, but I can't even get out of bed. And it's that sense of just, where's all this power? How come I struggle so much with issues in life? If I have this power within me, where is that power? How do I harness it? What do I do with it? So today we look at this subject that has plagued us from the beginning of time. I call it stolen authority. Now, what happens in the story of Jacob, and I'm not going to read the whole passage, but I'm just going to kind of give you a synopsis. There was a thing that they called the blessing. And the blessing was a cultural act of passing along the authority within a family. And when a man was close to death, he would choose which one of his sons would receive that authority. Now, generally, because of the cultural practice of primogeniture, which meant that the oldest son always got the inheritance and the blessing, which was the passing of authority, it would have befallen Esau in this particular case. Isaac was getting old, and he recognized that he was about to die. So in Genesis chapter 27, starting with verse 1, we read about it. And Isaac knew that he was getting old, and he was pretty much blind. And he calls for Esau, and he says, look, I want you to go out and go hunt me some wild game and fix it up the way that I like it, and come back, and I want to pronounce the blessing. I want to pass the blessing along to you. In other words, what he was saying was, I'm going to give you the authority in this family. That would have been and the reason he wanted them to go out and bring in the wild game was because it would have been a kind of a celebration time. It would have been a very significant experience. It wasn't just like, okay, fine, you're in charge now. It wasn't that sort of thing. It was like, I'm actually passing the reins over to you. And there was a type of celebration, if you will, that they would share together, and they would have this meal together, and he would give him some words of wisdom, and it was a very meaningful time. So Esau decides that, okay, fine, he's going to go out, and he goes out to the country to hunt some game and bring it back. Now, in the meantime, Rebekah, Isaac's wife, has heard this. She's overheard, and she hears that, oh, he's going to pass the blessing on. And so she tells Jacob that he needs to go and get a couple of sheep and bring it back, and she's going to fix it up. And she's conniving, if you will, for him to get the blessing, or in other words, the authority for the family. Now, it wasn't that Rebekah didn't like Esau. Esau was her son. Jacob was her son. These were twins, Jacob and Esau were twins. And she loved them both. But she apparently felt that Jacob was better qualified to be the authority within the family. Esau was, as we saw last week, Esau was an outdoorsman type of guy. He just loved the outdoors, and that's kind of where he lived his life. And you kind of get the impression from reading about Esau and studying the life of Esau that he was just kind of, what was the word I wanted to come up with? He was just kind of one of these guys that didn't care. He kind of lived his life in a carefree attitude. He'd go out and hunt, and he'd go out and spend days out in the woods or out in the desert, whatever. And that's the way he lived his life. He was pretty carefree. Jacob, on the other hand, as we saw last week, spent his time around, the home, and he cooked, and he watched cooking shows with his mother. By the way, I got in trouble last week for trashing cooking shows, for people who watch cooking shows. And of all the people who trashed me for it, it was Randy Ritter, who apparently likes to watch cooking shows. What's your favorite cooking show, Randy?
Jamie.
Jamie?
James.
Who?
Never mind.
And so he actually got onto my case about, making fun of people who watch cooking shows. So Randy, I'm sorry that you... And the what?
The grill.
The grilling. The barbecue. You watch that? Yeah? That's... Randy, have you ever cooked anything you saw on any of the cooking shows?
Maybe.
Not intentionally. So, anyway, so we've established that Jacob and Randy were mama's boys. They like to stay home and watch cooking shows.
Looking for a Bible study that's focused on the practical application of the Bible? Check out our website at theopenclass.com.
Glory to God, glory to God, forever. Glory to God, glory to God, glory to God, glory to God.